All right, everyone, take a nice deep breath, please. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I'm feeling guided to speak with you about this new rise that has been emerging. And this speaks to the great majority of you who have made significant shifts in terms of understanding that you are chosen, for sure, you are selected, but you've now graduated into more of your sovereignty. And as I've been sharing in this series about embodying being a sovereign one and in a majestic way. So you are part of this rise of a new breed of what's going to be demonstrating majestic sovereignty. And it's going to be in your own unique expression. And one of the reasons why this is so important during this time is because we see templates and examples of what sovereignty is supposed to look like, what power is supposed to look like, what being chosen is supposed to look like, what being a part of the royal priesthood is supposed to look like. And it's been this new and improved, upgraded versions of what's been coming forth. But you have a more special, and not special in terms of more valuable, um, in terms of God's love and favor, but you have a special uniqueness to the sovereignty that is ready to be demonstrated through you because you have been going through this uncommon, majestic metamorphosis so that you can embody your sovereignty. And that's something even during this series in terms of really cracking into that encoding and helping you to see your chosen one, selected one way of being from a much more expanded vantage point, a sovereign vantage point, which means when something goes through a metamorphosis, it does not become a upgraded version of what it already is. It becomes a new creation. And so in becoming a new creation, this is where the majestic comes through, and it's being played out from a metamorphosized way than versus just the traditional context of how we see majestic. And again, this is according to your unique blueprint. So what I mean by you being a new creation format and being set apart, a new breed of the majestic sovereignty, is because this is not about a cookie cutter template in terms of boxing you in to what this is supposed to be. Now, obviously, there's going to be the basic characteristics and some fundamental premises around how you jumpstart this activation that's already been underway, but how you uniquely tap into your own majestic codes so that the sovereignty template that's within you through this new royal DNA comes forth. So, we hear a lot in different teachings about remembering and reclaiming who who you once were or so, or your truth. But your truth has evolved, and sometimes we can actually slow our processes down by trying to reclaim and recover certain aspects and elements of our journey that actually needed to decompose so that it can morph into something that is more true for who we are now. And this is important because no eyes have seen, no ears have heard in terms of what's ready to be displayed, and especially through through you, through your unique expression, your unique expression. And though this may seem common in terms of, well, everyone has a unique expression, doing the same thing, but in their own way. Yes. However, even when that concept or premise is something that you try to launch yourself from, somehow you're still very confined to whatever the paradigm is around that. But you become your own paradigm. You become your own majestic sovereign expression. And you rise up in this sovereignty according to what is true for you from sources or God's definition and perspective in the now. And that's an ever evolving type of expression. That's why you can't be boxed in to just something that seems so signature in terms of a brand or a business or a movement or a ministry, so to speak. Just like with my branding, I bring the almightiness in my majestic expression because I'm not boxed in. And I shared in another segment how, or the reason why I feel more guided to provide series in podcast formats than just, oh, a podcast that's always about this particular topic. No, because my multi-trajectory, multi-dimensional expression is the embodiment to become all things to all and to serve at the highest level. And to demonstrate that in cross-industry authority, in my sovereignty, all right? But being able to demonstrate this authentic power, and for me, it's authentic, bringing my allness to the authenticity. And what I'm saying to you is, it's not that you're here to do what I'm here to do. That was unique to my encoding. But what you are here to demonstrate is a multifacetedness of the prism of who you are. And that's within your unique, majestic encoding. When you think biblically, in terms of when God talks about promises, we see whether it's in the story of Noah's Ark or the Promised Land or so, there's something that is very, I don't say magical in a sense, but there's a rainbow connection, if you will, to a lot of that demonstration. Joseph and his coat of many colors. Why is there symbolically these colors? Because it's a prism. And I say that it is your prism of promise that comes forth through you. And though the promised land, the journey to the promised land, not necessarily represents that rainbow, but what it is that you become, and I've talked about this before, you become the promised land for yourself and for others. But how you access that and embody that is by bringing forth, again, this unique prism of who you are. This is what makes you part of the new breed. Because in the traditional paradigms, in terms of how you show up with your life's purpose and your missions and movements, are very much containerized into something that boxes you in to become known by this particular focus, so to speak. But when you were in your majesticness, your sovereignty, your power at this level, you are not limited to how you show up and who you show up for. And this can be very seasonal. So some of you have been wondering, well, why is it? Why is it that I can't seem to really hone my craft enough to move it in the world for something bigger? You feel like you're always constantly in preparation. But that's because there's more to you than meets the majestic eye. That's a work of mine. Um, where there's other facets of you that want to be displayed so that you represent the promise. You represent the promise, all right? And my empire crown of many magnate colors focuses a lot on being that demonstration of having this sovereignty in this very prism didactic way, if you will. So this new rise and of you being part of this breed that is here to bring forth magnificence on multiple levels, different dimensions of who you are. So you can demonstrate those facets. The more you unleash, the more of who you truly are, more of that sovereign raw power, that sovereign raw potential, it comes forth. And there's nothing more majestic than witnessing your evolution and optimization in this way, when you are seated in heavenly places, when you are seated in the sovereignty of source, the sovereignty of yourself in terms of being one with your creator in your royalty. That you're not only a part of the royal priesthood, you are a commander, an authoritative figure within the evolution of what's taking place in humanity and in kingdom initiatives. Your missions, your movements are much more expansive and even more simplified when you are just fully being who you are. So while you have been waiting in terms of an expansion to take place and breakthroughs to happen, the only thing that could be possibly pending you is not the acknowledgement and the embodiment, I should say, of that there is more that is longing, desiring, coming forth. And it beckons the fullness of you in your potential to be displayed. And that's true exalted rulership, if you will, because that demonstrates again the majesticness of you in your own unique way. So your metamorphosis has brought forth more than what you are being able to grasp with your own understanding based on the templates and paradigms in which you have been accustomed to in terms of the sandboxes you've played in and what you see before you in terms of, oh, here's how I'm going to be successful in this way. Here's the next level of my breakthrough. No, there's actually not a pilot or template for that. It's something that is unfolding as you embrace more of your sovereign self in this format. It is not going to yield to you a one-dimensional type of expression. So even whatever it is that you are feeling guided to demonstrate now, that's a facet. It's a facet, and it can't jump off to be something much more expansive because you will make it be the end all be all. That's not what you're here to do now. Again, you are part of a new breed, and it is important that the new breed rises in this majestic sovereign way. It's important because you're not here to look like what already exists. And that's not a knock to what already exists. It's just that's not what you are built for, wired for. It's not your orientation. It simply is not. You cannot force yourself to be something that you aren't. You are not a one-trick pony. You are not a one niche wonder. You are not a one-dimensional expression, whether of spirituality, of personal or professional or even educational experiences. You are the embodiment, the totality of so much more, of so much more. And so again, when you unleash this part of who you are, and of course, I have resources within the description to help you not just uncover, but to be able to set up your next levels of what you're here to demonstrate as being part of this rise. See, when you rise like a phoenix, your flames are multicolored. Your rising is so much more than you could ever imagine. You're not only rising as a butterfly, you're rising as an eagle, and you're rising as a phoenix. And even much more than that. Because there's so many different levels of you that's ready to be demonstrated majestically. And so I'm excited. I share this at the close of most of the segments about how excited I am for this new breed and to be shepherding and leading you into this new level of embodiment, because this is who you are. And again, it will continuously be unfolding. You will continuously be morphing for the moment in the most majestic ways in terms of what your mission is. That's why my calling has been to teach and bring forth multi-mission magnates, but also those who are here to demonstrate their brand and entrepreneurial coats of many colors, their crowns of many colors, their thrones of many colors. And I have other teachings in terms of leveling up for the magnate level, because that's what you're here for. And I'm excited because I can already sense and feel and see the mind-blowingness for each of you when you realize this is what you came here for. And why, up until this point, certain things aren't working out maybe the way you want them to, or it seems like things are stalling, they're lagging in a sense. But that's because you are part of the rise of this new breed of majestic sovereignty. So I'm going to encourage you and empower you to get present. You know, I always start segments off with a nice deep breath. Take time to do some breathing and connect to the truth of who you are at this phase, so that you can align with that sovereignty that is the sovereignty of now, the majesticness of now, and how it is time to take your rightful place. It is time for you to be in rulership. That is the type of leadership authority that has been cultivating. There's nothing that you can do to continuously hold that back. It's going to come forth. But it can come forth with ease and unfold when you have the understanding that this is the next level. This is, if you want to look at it as the next portal of potential that is expanding. You're just not here as an extra. You're just not here just consistently preparing. It's not about preparing to be sovereign. You already are. It's about the unfolding of that continuation, that evolution of this embodiment. It's not a one and done. It's not a one and done. But the doneness in the moment has to be that you honor that you have awakened to this level of your potential. This is who you are, majestic sovereign ones. This is who you are. It's who you are. And I look forward to continuing to rise with you and to be here for you in any way that is divinely aligned for me and to support you. But again, there are resources within the description. And I'm going to send you away, as I always do, with many, many blessings. And here's to your majestic sovereignty. And I'm wishing you the absolute best. And until we resume again, take care and stay blessed.